Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is Overtime. Thank you for joining us. Former President Donald J. Trump has been indicted by a grand jury in Manhattan. We're going to talk about what we know about this so far and what we're expecting. At this point, it's only about 20 or 30 minutes out that this information. It literally just happened now at the end of the day. Whether that was deliberate or not, we don't know. It's also still sealed, so we don't know exactly what the indictment reads. We can guess, but this is obviously going to change everything about the race going forward. There are implications for this, for the Republican Party, for the presidential nomination process, for history. This is unprecedented in U.S. history. It is the first time a former president has been indicted. To the best of my knowledge, it's also the first time the head of a national party has been indicted, and to the best of my knowledge, also as well the first time a running candidate has been indicted. He's managed to get all three. With me today is 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐜𝐿. 𝐒𝐿𝐜𝐿, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. A little bit better now.
Aren't we all? This has changed the nature of our day, I think. So, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, let's see what the trial is. I mean, it's great that they finally actually indicted him on something. This isn't a particularly large charge, but as you keep pointing out, that once it's happened once, it makes it easier to happen again for other things. So it might be just the start of something. It's like I don't honestly really give a shit about the charges of paying off Stormy Daniels. So, this is something that happened in 2006, and it's like, great, I get to hear all about how the orange marmalade Mussolini stooped porn stars, and why in the hell the porn star would do that. But I mean, at least it's a start to things. Maybe things will get rolling. I mean, we really need to get the perception of the rule of law back. I mean, that's been slowly breaking down over the last, 5-ish years.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, up to and including why I say even a porn star as if they don't have dignity, but why a porn star would I'm not sure there's any amount of money. But at any rate, yes, I think that's true. So let's talk about what this means and what we're looking at. And we've talked about this before, and I'm going to have to. Sinister Porpoise, $5 super chat. I'm really okay, trying to maintain my dignity.
You must sing it.
No.
You must sing it.
No.
Yes.
Is
yes.
That oh dear Lord.
We represent the Lollipop Guild.
It sounds to me like you're the one who should be singing it. You're prepared to do it. I mean, you should be singing.
No, you're the one that you are contractually obligated to read all super chats, and they must be read in the by which the nature they were intended. So you must sing it.
I'm not required to sing super chats. That's a new God. Okay, Sinister Porpoise, $5. As mature as possible, she writes. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The witch is dead. The wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. All right, get that once.
There we go. Get us all in the festive music. I mean, this should be like a festival, like the county fair.
We're streaming on In Time, not on Overtime. This is not simulcast. That cannot be clipped. Yeah, Titan. Just FYI. All right. Okay, so let's get serious for a minute. It's hard to be serious, but we're going to get serious for a minute here and talk about what this means, because this is it is unprecedented and it means a lot. So I'm gonna start with the big picture. This is absolutely nothing. Trump is under a number of indictments. This is the one that is least likely to yield a successful prosecution. In my view, the chances are less than 50-50. The chances are much higher in his favor. What I understand of the case, and I've looked at it, I'm like, it's a bit of a stretch. They've got enough to indict on. I'm glad that they indicted, because if the indictment failed, it would have changed everything. The successful indictment's important. But the charge, and people conflate this charge with what it should be. So let's be crystal clear about what the charge is. The charge is that he lied on documentation to the state of New York about the nature of money that he gave to his lawyer. He gave $100,000 to his lawyer. He said it was legal expenses. It turned out to be to pay Stormy Daniels off. That's it. Is that payment legal? Yes, you have people sign NDAs all the time. People are paid to shut up all the time. It sounds like it shouldn't be legal. It seems like something's wrong. It's legal. So that's the first thing in terms of just the payment itself is legal. So he is accused of having taken it and lied about what he was doing with the money on, I think it was tax forms, certainly forms to the state. That's what he's in trouble for. It's a reasonably minor thing, all said and done. The problem is there's interpretations of the law and just common language where you could say, well, it actually was legal. It was legal expenses. There was a potential legal problem, and he paid for a settlement before the legal problem. That's an arguable statement, so it's going to be hard to nail him on this. Wait a minute, didn't he mess with campaign contributions, and wasn't this illegal from a federal standpoint? Yes, almost certainly. He violated a number of FEC rules, and in my view, I mean, holy shit, this should have ended him and should have been indicted from a federal level a while ago, for reasons that currently still remain a mystery. The federal government has said that they would not prosecute this. Maybe they didn't want to seem like they're trying to influence an election. I don't know, but they decided not to prosecute. Now Biden is in office. Biden's a smart guy. He says, "Oh my God, the law was absolutely broken here, so we're gonna prosecute." I'd like to see him do that. I kind of think he should do that. He can't. He can't do it because then it's going to look like selective prosecution. The FEC had previously decided they're not going to prosecute, and then he comes in and says, "Oh no, we're going to prosecute, my potential, opponents in the next election. So let's go back in." So it's done. They had their bite at the apple. They should have prosecuted. They didn't. All that can happen with this is a prosecution at the state level by the Manhattan District Court, and that's what they're doing. The chances he gets convicted are reasonably small. So on one level, this is an absolute nothing burger. just worth understanding that. On another level, this is huge, and here's why. One of the reasons he wasn't indicted previously by the FEC, and I think there's a couple of reasons. One of them, I think, was who wants to indict him. First of all, you're going to have to face a percentage of the public that's going to be very angry. He's going to make it very difficult for you. There's going to be a lot of mudslinging. Your career is in jeopardy, and if you fail, it's over for you. This is tangling with him in court at this level is actually dangerous to your career and potentially, not to oversell it, to your life, because we know what happened to Nancy Pelosi and her husband, and we've seen more of this on the rise. It's also happened to, I'm sorry to say this, folks, it's also happened from people on the left to lawmakers on the right. Is Andrew, what was the name of the governor, the Republican governor that got kidnapped? No, there was an attempted kidnap/assassination plan. Remember that? I've forgotten the name. Get back to me if you remember. It doesn't matter. There's an increase in that kind of violence, and that is going to be on your mind. That was on the mind of the Manhattan DA. They've increased their security procedures. So it's very hard to do this. Now that it's been done, there's a path for doing it, and future prosecutions become 10 times easier because MAGA can't be everywhere at once. They can't be going after and attacking everybody who's prosecuting, and Trump can only handle so many defenses at a time. So now that it's happened, now that he's been indicted, now that there is a precedent, expect a new indictment every month on average for the next 8 months. That's what you can expect. And that couldn't happen until it's the first man problem. Who's going to be the first one knowing that through that door, you're going to be the bloodiest of every individual who tries it. The first one through the wall is the most badly injured. It had to be a small case. It had to be something that was reasonably small potatoes. That's what this is. This is done. He is currently under indictment that we know of for 4 different things, including, not under indictment. I misspoke. Apologies. There is a grand jury considering an indictment for 4 things. This includes the, oh dear Lord, the mishandling of the documents from the classified documents. That grand jury is almost certain to indict. Now, there have been questions, have other presidents done it, so on and so forth. That's an issue for trial. That's an issue for trial. Whether everybody breaks this law, that's an issue for trial. That grand jury is going to indict him. He is, he's got issues with the IRS. They're going to resolve that now this year. They have to. They don't want to be the last ones. Nobody wants to be the last ones to indict now. So instead of nobody wanting to be the first ones, they didn't want to be the first ones through the wall. Now nobody wants to be the last ones, because the last one's going to be seen as a coward who just sort of waited until it was the safest possible moment, and your name is mud. So nobody wants to be the last one. This changes everything. It's a small potatoes case, fellas. It's not going to prevent him from running. It's not going to, a conviction isn't going to change much in his life. And I guarantee, I really doubt they're going to get a conviction. It's possible, but I would bet against it. It changes everything anyway. What we're going to do now is, my DMs have been blowing up a bit. So is my phone. I had 3 people calling me simultaneously. I was trying. They're like, so we had. And that's what happens when I'm away from Discord for 5 minutes. So I would like to thank everybody who did reach out to me. I appreciate it. I'll thank you all individually as well. But yeah, that's it. Yes, my suspicion is lots of food is going to be flying at Mar-a-Lago tonight. Ketchup dripping down every wall. It's going to be like it's going to be utter chaos. So we've got a whole bunch going on right now, as you can imagine. And I'm now that we've covered, I guess, sort of the basics, I will just tell you, as Andrew sort of said, well, thank God, and I concur. I don't dislike Trump because he's a Republican. I get along with a number of Republicans. I'll deny it, but I actually get along with and consider some conservatives my closest friends. I don't know why. It's probably a mental illness. They actually tend to be very nice guys. I don't know anywhere in this vicinity, but nonetheless, plenty of good conservatives around. There really are, by the way. There's genuinely good people who are conservatives. In fact, most of them are pretty good, as it turns out. I know, I was shocked too. It's much easier to just pigeonhole all of them. At any rate, dislike Trump because he didn't give a shit about the law, he didn't give a shit about the Constitution, he didn't give a shit about the people opposing him, and he certainly didn't even give a shit about the people supporting him. He didn't. That is objectively true. It doesn't take. He was one of the worst and most, he was a liar, the likes of which nobody has seen in the end. Historians have gone over this. They're like, how many times he did more lies, and he told more lies in 1 year than I think any president had in history, including those who served more than 2 terms. He's a bullshitter. He's a con artist. Don't believe me? Fine. Read the manual for Trump University someday. That's fucking eye-opening. Here's how to evade the police. Here's how you get granny when she can't afford the next classes, to mortgage her house and put it all on credit cards. I mean, it's here's what to do when they realize that they're never going to actually take a picture with Donald Trump. Here's how you manage them. That's in the fucking manual to the university. He's not going to get a tenth of what he deserves, and quite frankly, the damage he did to this country, pretty staggering, and that's not including the nuclear material stuff that we don't know the fallout from yet. So I really hate to say that this is a good day. It shouldn't be a good day when a former president of the U.S. is indicted. Well, people go back and wonder whether Nixon never should have been indicted, whether he should have had consequences. I don't know. I've studied it for a while, and I don't know. This had to happen, and I think the best reason is exactly what Andring said earlier, and I said this again, and he's right. You have to have the rule of law, and if you don't, you're sending a signal to all presidents in the future they can act like a king. it has to stop somewhere. Today is the first major step in stopping it. So that's where we are. Any other thoughts, Xander? I'm gonna quickly again. I'm gonna check the live chat. I've got a lot of information coming in. I want to look at some of it before we go on. But any thoughts, Xander?
I think that it's a promising start for the rule of law. We'll see how far it goes and how it turns out. It's going to be future generations that look back at this and decide whether standing up for the rule of law was better than trying to avoid the appearance of attacking political opponents, using the law or weaponizing the government against political opponents. But we're not going to be able to tell that for probably a couple generations whether that was a really good thing or not. Maybe it will all blow up in our face in just 6 years, and maybe we'll find out sooner rather than later. But I still think that given the information that we currently have, we should fall on the side of the rule of law. People are not above the law, especially our political leaders, which should be held to a higher standard than the average citizen. So we need to start charging every political leader that is doing malfeasance.
So I got a couple questions in the live chat. Hopefully I will address them since they were specifically asked anyway. I'll address them anyway. Sinister Porpoise asks or says the payment is legal. The issue is that he used campaign finance funds. Agreed at the federal level. That's the issue. The problem is the feds said they're not going to prosecute, so he gets away with it no matter what. I agree. That's the real issue. The federal government dropped it. They said no. We're not going to, and I mean, it was clear cut and dry. He could be convicted like that, and they didn't prosecute. They didn't go after it. I don't know why. But since that's done, I agree with you, that's the issue. That's no longer something you can really prosecute him on. So the issue is now, did he lie to the state government or to the, did he lie to the state of New York? He wasn't honest. He was dishonest. Whether it was a lie or not is now the burden. It's a criminal case, so it's a criminal case, so it's beyond a reasonable doubt. I think they're going to have a real hard time making it beyond a preponderance, maybe. But yeah, okay, just listen to what I just said. They might make beyond a preponderance. So if I'm sitting there, I'm not sure they can make beyond a preponderance in a civil case. This is criminal. I don't know. Mark Garcia, let's see. Ooh, I think he said something nice. Nick, don't quit your day job. Really. I didn't warm up my vocal cords. Okay, I didn't do the gargling and all the singing exercises. It would have been gorgeous if I'd had, did my best. Oh yeah, Maya, who thought it would be a good idea to make Nick sing? Yeah, this guy, the guy right there, that guy with the Constitution behind him. He's the one who said, we're going to make Nick sing. Let's not have Nick sing again. Okay, it wasn't that bad, right? I mean, it wasn't like a crime against humanity or anything, right? Right? Maybe you shouldn't answer that question. All right.
Were you wanting me to actually answer it?
No, no. I certainly, I was rhetorical.
I would
and
really,
mostly towards
I
the
really
live chat.
hope it.
Don't answer.
Okay.
Yes, don't answer. You
Okay.
too. Nobody answer that question. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
I have to
unindicted.
express a little bit of joy.
Well, I'm still trying to catch up, and there was just I'll tell you, I'll make a confession. It's like we worked really hard to be Johnny on the spot with all of this stuff. We were when it came to Israel, right? I mean, we were broadcasting for 2 hours before anybody else had it. And I've had a few. I have a friend of mine who DMs me after that, and is like, it's really scary that you beat network news to all of these things. And I finally figured out what she was implying. Because she finally had to explain it to me. I was like, what do you mean it's scary? It's like, we got a great team. They work really hard. And she's like, yeah, but sometimes it's like there's no information and you guys have it. It's like, are you responsible for a coup in Israel? I was like, me? She's like, how else did you know? I was like, okay. It's okay. But we had heard that he wasn't going to be indicted till April, so I was just like, I was chillaxed. I heard the Discord going off. I was like, I'll get to it, but he's not going to be indicted to April, so what could really? What was it you had said about that?
Sorry, I was reading. What did you say? I was trying to tune you out.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Well, listen, if you're reading, then great. You should do that rather than me do the joke. I was just saying, it's like when you're
Oh,
ready for it, of course, it doesn't happen. Then when you're not ready, that's when it happens. And not ready. I mean, we were
oh
live
yeah,
within
yeah.
5 minutes, but that's why I sort of stepped away and said, okay, God, I'm not ready for an indictment at this exact moment, so that it would happen at that exact moment. Because if been ready, it's the
Yeah, you just
boiling
keep
pot
telling
thing.
yourself that.
Yeah, you're welcome, everyone. You're very welcome. Um, I think you're making fun of me.
No, I would never do such a thing. I'm an upstanding conservative, and I would never make fun of the liberals.
Oh, 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 things just escalated quickly in here. Damn. All right, all
Hey,
right.
can't we just come together on the fact that we're both happy that they actually
We
indicted
are.
Trump for something, for
Oh, we
fuck's
are.
sake?
All right. Tell me this. What was the worst thing that he did, do you think?
I think that perhaps one of the most dangerous things that he attempted, there were two things, and I think both are equally as dangerous. One, he appears to have actually tried to subvert an election and send fraudulent electors to keep himself in power. That's probably the most dangerous thing. The fact that he was incompetent about it,
I'm going to interrupt.
notwithstanding, that is a dangerous thing to even consider doing. And then a very close second, possibly tied with that, at least in my opinion, was him using federal agents to abduct people off of the street without any kind of identification of who they were, without any kind of official vehicles, with nobody knowing where they went, who they talked to. There was no records of any of it. He just disappeared people. The fact that they eventually did reappear, still, notwithstanding, that's a terrifying thing.
I think you're right. Yes, I was on. I was literally on the line. So was Pat Lowinger. That means I have to actually like pronounce his name correctly for a period of time as penance. I can't like make fun of him, especially when McMillan's on. It's like that's one of my favorite things. But yeah, I was literally on the phone with Pat. And then I got a call from Titan. I was just like, how many people are calling me? What's going on? And it did take me a minute to process everything. I was like, wow, a lot of numbers are calling me. I was like, what's this? Yeah, thank you, Pat. So, we have a couple statements and a few other things. So, it has now been confirmed by Trump's legal team that, in fact, he has been indicted. So his team has confirmed it. We were already sure. We wouldn't have gone live if we weren't sure. It was basically held by it, but until his team confirms it, there could always be a mistake. His team's confirmed it. So we have two statements that I'm going to read. The first is a statement from Representative Adam Schiff, who was the former House Intel chair. It's a reasonably long statement. It's 4 paragraphs. For me, that's really friggin' short, but it's worth reading in its entirety. So I'm going to read Adam Schiff's statement. Former, there we go. Former intelligence chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Quote: the indictment of former President Donald J. Trump by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office over his alleged participation in campaign fraud and hush money scheme that already sent his former attorney Michael Cohen to jail is a sobering and unprecedented development. But if justice demands that Michael Cohen go to jail for a scheme directed by someone else, justice also requires that the person responsible for directing the scheme must answer for their offenses against the law. That person is Donald Trump. The indictment and arrest of a former president is unique throughout all of American history. But so too is the unlawful conduct for which Trump has been charged, and the even more grievous misconduct for which he is currently under investigation by a Department of Justice special counsel and the Fulton County District Attorney. Yeah, and a couple of other ones that he missed, but okay. There is far more at stake than the legal challenges facing the former president. If we are to be a nation of laws, then we must apply the law equally and to everyone, regardless of their station. Few nations have lived up to this ideal, and our own country has often fallen far too short. But if we are to have justice, if we are to have a rule of law that is meaningful and protective of our democracy, we must hold the rich and powerful to account, even when those persons hold high office, perhaps most importantly, when they hold high office. To do otherwise, because holding a president accountable is controversial or provocative, will not bring order, but will breed disorder and disrespect of the law. So if the grand jury found probable cause to believe that Donald J. Trump committed a crime, and the district attorney believes he can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, this step, while unprecedented, is also deeply and fundamentally necessary to preserve the rule of law. There has been a response. First response, yes. Well, let me read the response first. I'm going to do the response.
I don't often.
Let me do the response real quick. Okay. The response. There has been a quite eloquent response. Eric Trump has responded. This is third world prosecutorial misconduct. It is the opportunistic targeting of a political opponent in a campaign year. Full stop. Thank you, Eric. Your opinion is very valued. What were you going to say?
I don't often agree with Adam Schiff, and yet I agree fully with that statement.
That was a very well written statement. I like that statement. That was a good statement. For those of you just joining us, former president, current candidate, and de facto head of the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, has been indicted by a grand jury in Manhattan. We have discussed at some length what this means going forward. I will probably discuss it one more time before we end this, but I don't want to keep repeating it. For those of you who have stayed with us from the beginning, you can go back and hear why it's both extraordinarily significant and on one level actually reasonably minor. The particular indictment is reasonably minor, and I'm not by the way, Eric is the smart one. Yeah, I know. So it's I don't think they're going to hook him on it. I really don't. I don't think it matters either. What matters is that you have a successful indictment, and that changes everything. The first time ever a former president has been indicted, and my hope is that it gives everybody thinking of running for president, including and most of all DeSantis, pause in how they plan on operating once they become president. Because I have no doubt that DeSantis was very interested in the Donald Trump playbook and wanted to run it by somebody who had an IQ that was at least slightly higher than a pistachio nut. And I think DeSantis, that was his plan. And this, at a minimum, gives him pause. And I think that's good. The consequences for the Republican Party, I think, are going to take a while to sort out. My initial interpretation is that this essentially ends any chance they have of capturing the White House. I've made predictions like this before and been forced to eat my words, so take it with a grain of salt. But this isn't going to stop Trump, and Trump believes he is owed that nomination. So the Republicans are, for all intents and purposes, in kind of a civil war themselves, and this isn't going to make it better. This isn't going to make it better, and this puts the leadership in a huge quandary because, honestly, they can't let him win the nomination. They can't, because they know this is not the last indictment. They know that it's done. Trump is done. It's just a question of how long it takes before the indictments start rolling in and before, you put the final nail in the coffin. But he's done. There's no recovery from this. And what Letitia James plans on doing to the Trump organization, and she'll succeed. I've read she'll succeed. She's got him, and she knows she's got him. And Florida's going to start too. Florida's going to start in on him. They haven't yet, probably for a couple of reasons. There's a lot to go through. And it's going to take some time, and they want to be careful with DeSantis as the governor of Florida because same reason that Biden doesn't want to have his hands on anything near an indictment of Trump. So they'll sort that out. I think the Republicans have a very serious problem with this, and their first problem is how do they completely cut him off, because they can't. If he wins, there's a possibility that he wins office and has to serve from inside fucking jail. Little hyperbole there, but you get what I'm saying. All right.
I was going to say a little hyperbole. I highly doubt that he'll go to jail, even if he were. Let's just pull out the wish basket for a moment and say that all of these pending indictments all come through, and they all get convictions. Unlikely, but we're living in wish world right now. He still doesn't go to jail, but he's never going to serve in office again.
Yeah, well, and I say jail because it'd be under house arrest, but there's a distinct possibility. I mean, for most intents, I mean, imagine a president is confined in one way or another. Either he can't leave his house or he's in jail. Jail is not that much hyperbole. He could technically, quote, be in jail. They won't actually put him in prison, but they'll figure something out. When did this come out? Let's see. This is a great tweet. And by the way, join us on the Discord, and we're covering all of this on the Discord. Information is coming in faster than I can process it. So if you want to see what's going on, go to our Discord. You can read it there. There's a comment from Donald Trump. Let's see. It says 12 minutes ago. This has to have been at least 40 minutes ago, but here's the comment. This was not 12 minutes. This was 40 minutes ago at least. I guarantee you he did not make this comment 12 minutes ago. Quote, I have gained such respect for this grand jury and perhaps even the grand jury system as a whole. The evidence is so overwhelming. It's really tough to read Trump well because grammar seems to have escaped him. The evidence is so overwhelming in my favor, comma, and so, I think he went for the Oxford comma there? Really? Okay. In my favor, comma, and so ridiculously bad for the highly partisan and hateful district attorney that the grand jury is saying, hold on, we are not a rubber stamp, which most grand juries are branded as being. We are not going to vote against a preponderance of evidence or against large numbers of legal scholars all saying there is no case here. Drop this sick witch hunt now. That was not 12 minutes ago. I don't know much, but I know that was not 12 minutes ago. But Ron Flipendowski came out and said, yeah, this aged well, yeah. My suspicion, I'm not like a psychologist, but I think his views on the grand jury may have changed slightly in the last 40 minutes. Yes, he's asked. Okay, so he's asked. He calls these events nuclear and tells people to drop down and pray. If that had come from anybody else, I wouldn't be worried about it. That bothers me. If he's telling his people to drop down and pray, that's one thing. If he's telling those who oppose him to drop down and pray, that's another. And I suspect I know what he meant. Did you see the image of him with the baseball bat?
No.
Okay, we should.
I've been avoiding Trump.
Yeah, we need to put that up. That is startling, and we didn't cover it. And it's shocking. It's genuinely friggin' shocking. I think I've got it in my records with Titan, so let me just click. Okay, and there's another statement. Oh my God, the statements are coming in like crazy. I do believe I think, and then I do want to say, so on Tuesday, we are going to have a former member of the alt-right. He had done an interview with the Tampa Bay Times. He said this, which I thought made a lot of sense. He said, quote, my job was to normalize hate, and I was good at it. He was a member of the alt-right. He worked with hate groups very closely. He's now a consultant on how to combat hate and hate groups. He is going to be coming on with us. He got himself out. He realized when he kind of realized what he was doing. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna have him on Tuesday. I think that's going to be a very good discussion. I'm looking forward to that. So and the Xandring. My understanding is
We
you'll be
should
able to
be
join
clear
us.
there. It's somebody other than me.
Yeah, it's not his Xandring,
Because I'm
folks.
usually on Tuesdays, and now it's like we used to be a member of the alt-right, which I've been accused of.
Oh yeah, okay,
Like
that
we
is
should be
fair.
clear. No, an actual member of the alt-right, not me.
Okay. Yeah, he's not. He's a theoretical member of the alt-right. Okay, I can't find the image with the bat. I'll get that in a minute. Trump had an image that was very disturbing, actually, and you can't chalk up to an accident. Geez, I just had it. Okay, a lot going on, so I'm going to need a second. Sinister Porpoise, $2. You're welcome for that introduction. By the way, thanks. What I like was, so we had about 80 people watching live. Sinister Porpoise gave a super chat in which I had to sing. We dropped to 3 live, and it's just been building back up since then. I was going to say I tried not to take it personally, but there it is. Got it. All right. This is Donald Trump put this out on Truth Social. He left it out there for. When I say I got it, what that usually means is I've got it. Where did it? There's always something. Okay, that's a very small version of it, but I'm hoping that you guys. So he put this out on Truth Social. I think he left it for 2 days until he took it down. His lawyer was asked whether he maybe should not have put it up, and his lawyer basically said he does not. He's not his social media consultant. he said this picture was, quote, ill-advised, but I'm not his media consultant. This is the picture that he's talking about. Trump put that on Truth Social. That's Trump on the left with a baseball bat looking like he's about to whack somebody. That is the district attorney on the right. And that does not happen by accident, folks. He knew exactly what he was doing. That's insane. Yeah.
Ill-advised, huh? Well, yeah.
It's Trump's lawyer.
I guess if you're going for understatement of the year.
Yeah. Now they took that down.
If you are a lawyer for him, what are you supposed to say? Something like that.
Oh, listen, I feel for his lawyers. All right, what I'm going to do is let's just check and see. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's see. Now I had like 3 other things I was going to look at. We have another statement that we need to read, and I was going somewhere else before I spoke about. Thank you, Ashelon. I appreciate it. Yeah. And then there was another couple of questions in the live chat that needed answering. I think I got the one on why it's not. Oh yeah, and I got to check breaking news. All right, okay. An official statement from Donald Trump. I need to gird my loins for this one. I'm going to need to. This is a statement. We'll get to that in a second. The Discord. Most of this is in the breaking news. Grand jury. Let's see. 1 statement, 2 statements. I don't think we're going to do that one. New York Times has it. If I had the, yeah, this is this is a day, folks. This is, keep in mind, whether you care about history or not, whether you care about these things and the consequences or not, your children will be reading about this in school, and they'll be reading about this day 100 years from now. This is first time this has ever happened. It's now the indictment has not been announced. I read one thing that suggested he's been arrested. If he's been arrested, that means that he was brought in cuffs, and we've talked about why they do that, and that chances are very good that they would do that. They used to offer a courtesy against that kind of thing. They don't do that anymore, and they're very serious. Everybody gets cuffed. Everybody. Um, Considering the violence that they're preparing for, and knowing that he has suggested strongly that there be violence in his name against specifically the Manhattan DA, I think they're going to cuff him. And I think the police aren't going to be too happy. Police don't always like DAs for a number of reasons I completely understand. But when you fuck with a DA, you're fucking with the entire legal system, and that includes police, and police very much feel that way. So my suspicion is he was cuffed, and my suspicion is he was. They let him know that at least while he's at the jail getting his mugshot and fingerprint, that he is just like any other perp coming in through the walking in there. So we'll see. I'm sure his mugshot is going to come out. Anyways, it hasn't been made official yet, well, it's been made official. It hasn't been formally released yet, but that's why the confirmation by his legal team
to take that
was
picture.
So important. I'm sorry, what?
That picture from the New York. You say you need to take that picture from the New York Times, print it out on a really good, high quality printer, and then frame it. Well, put it up on your wall. Historic moment.
I was looking for thumbnails. We had the thumbnail for this made weeks ago. We figured the chances of this was very good, but I had a whole bunch of pictures to choose from, and I had one that was just like a shot. It was one of those micro expressions, where somebody has an expression that isn't reflective of actually what's going on, but taken out of context, it looks great. It was a micro expression of him going. I was just like, oh, we so need Nick. Be professional, Nick. We're not gonna. Oh. Trump makes it very hard. he makes it hard. All right, so I'm going to catch up with his statement, and then we're going to see. Let's see. Yeah, somebody was asking about the pardons, and that's correct.
I wonder if somebody in the DA's office or the police station will be petty enough to actually muss up his hair for his mugshot.
I doubt they would. That could even be viewed as an assault. They'll handle him. They may, man, and they may not. It may be. I mean, by the way, keep in mind, they knew this was coming. So the police chief himself probably talked to everybody and said, whenever this happens, they're going to get like a 30-minute notice. They go. He comes in. They escort him. All this other stuff. And he's just like, if anybody screws up, I swear to God, it's like it's your career here. So yeah. So let's see.
It makes me a little concerned that we can have police shootings that are, or police use of excessive force, I should say, where we've seen blatant examples of it, like you can't possibly excuse this, and yet they weren't even reprimanded, let alone fired. And yet, if they do so much as put a hair out of place on Trump coming in, they're going to lose their career forever. What is the state of law and order in this country?
All right. So what is this? There's a shit ton going on. Obviously, so for In Time tonight, one of the things we're going to be keeping an eye on is what happens next. This is the same feeling we sort of had right before the Black Lives Matter protests, where it's like, okay, we know something's going to happen tonight, and before you know it, we're covering simultaneous streams across 6 major cities in the U.S. Things are burning everywhere, and we're trying to sort out what's going on. I don't know that this is going to be that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I was just about to say, yeah, we maybe end up going from a live breaking Trump's indicted to, and now we have a riot. So maybe we'll just buckle up and say, maybe we'll just be here all night.
We're going to be on standby. Let's just put it that way. We're going to be on standby, and if you want to know what's going on, we'll cover it. We've done this before. Gotten pretty good at it. So unfortunately, like and subscribe, and just keep an eye on the channel. And if something happens, you wake up in the morning, we'll have told you about it. But what apparently what we're seeing is this Tennessee state legislature. I'm looking at that right now. A number of people are okay. This is about guns. So there's protests about guns. The whole that gun thing has had me upset on Twitter. It's had me upset for any number of reasons. The obvious, I mean, it's kind of disgusting. I don't want people to start blaming cis white males for mass shootings. I really don't. But on the flip side, I'm just curious why, as a cis white male, I could go and shoot up a place and kill basically any number of people, and it's going to be universally recognized that it's a mental health issue, and yada yada yada. But if somebody who is either black, gay, Muslim, trans, or anything like that, then it's because they're black, gay, Muslim, or trans. I honestly appreciate it, but I don't need that kind of special treatment, and it is extraordinarily detrimental to everybody. But that's, I think, for another time. Yeah, wow. Via Twitter, Fox News is struggling to find a way to spin the Trump indictment. I'm curious to see how and what they, oh, God. Kyle Rittenhouse, pray for President Trump. I got to tell you, when he came on Twitter, he acted like a complete ass. He's done nothing but act like a complete ass. I stand by my statements and my defense of why I think he was truly not guilty. I stand by it. Still do. I hate it that every time he opens my mouth, he makes me feel shame for defending the guy, and he can't seem to keep from fucking doing that. I really detest him.
If it makes you feel any better, I feel the same way you do. It's like, I watched all of those videos very, very closely. I'm like, okay, this appears to me to be a pretty clear case of self-defense. Then he gets charged, and I'm like watching that kind of farce of a trial, and we finally get to the end of it, and I'm like, okay, I think we got the proper outcome here. And I still don't like the kid. It's like he made really bad choices through the whole damn thing, and he's still making bad choices. And it's like, I hate defending. It makes you kind of feel like you're like defending a KKK member's right to speak his mind in the public square. It's like you have to do it, and you have to hold your nose while you're doing it. And you're like, why are you making me defend you? I don't want to do this.
Well, I've had a few people. It's funny because I get into arguments with people. Oh, you're on the left, so you think he was guilty. I was like, oh, you clearly, yeah, you know me real well. But yeah, it's the saying, and I believe it very strongly. If you do not believe in free speech for the people that you disagree with, you don't believe in free speech at all. By the way, Xander, I hate to say this, but in case I forget, Sinister Porpoise has asked that I sing again, and she's enough of a supporter of this show that I think I kind of am obligated to. So if I forget,
I can mute audio, so go for it.
I'm not going to do it now. I'm not singing now.
Oh.
So
you're going to spring it on everybody and surprise them.
Oh, absolutely.
You better double check everybody's health insurance. That's still a sticky situation in the United States, but you might want to check their health insurance before you just suddenly start singing again.
Oh, Titan, by the way.
And this is kind of a quasi-official show, so is there something in there about liability, maybe?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me get our lawyers in on that, and we will find out what the liability is. I think that's a great question. Titan, if you could send me that list of alternate co-hosts that we were considering, like just if they were, just send that to me. No reason. Send that by when you got a chance.
Speaking of Wish World.
Okay. So a lot of people are opining on this. It turns out it's a big thing. I'm not going to go over all of them. I actually really deeply regret going over Rittenhouse's one, except it just reminds of what a fucking douche he is. But at any rate, and by the way, if you're a fan of Rittenhouse and if you support Rittenhouse, that's perfectly fine. He's a douche anyway, and I'm going to stand by that one. That's. I'm almost prepared to make that an official in time statement. This is a good one. Like every other criminal defendant, Trump has long-standing constitutional right to trial by jury. and to confront his accusers and to have legal counsel. If he believes that the legal basis for his indictment is unfounded, he can make that argument to a judge. Fucking men. Trump's super PAC has come out and said that this is not an indictment of a crime.
Isn't that kind of what indictments do?
You can't indict a crime. How do you indict a crime? How do you indict? You indict a person. You can't just put any old noun in there you want. People are indicted. Crimes are committed. Oh dear Lord! It is going to be all. This is going to be it all night. I'm sorry.
I would love to see this. Okay, we can go back to Wish World here, since the first person on the possible co-host replacement, should I die horrendously in a fiery death on the highways, bringing you your fluffy kitten slippers, is Tony DeZarms.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Okay. That's a marvelous choice, Titan. Thank you for that choice. I want to just take a minute right now and just say, Ms. Andering, I love you like a brother. Don't ever quit. Don't leave. Whatever it takes. Your position is pretty fucking solid. That's all I have to say.
Even if I do go down in a fiery blaze of glory, bringing you your kitten shoes, they're going to prop that charred husk right up in front of that camera, and we're still going on.
Yes, sir. You got it.
I don't use my camera anyway, so how would anybody know?
I'm thrilled that Tony's on the list, but
charred zombie me, charred zombie me, I'm sure is just as good as normal me.
Oh dear Lord. Yeah, that is not true. But whether it were or wasn't, we'll go with the zombie you. Thank you for the list, Titan. I appreciate it. I'll keep that in the fireplace. All right. So, statement from the.
You might win a debate with charred zombie me.
Oh shit! Wow. This is just let's like all do low blows all night. Holy!
It is a wonderful day. Everybody's feeling awesome.
It actually really is. It is on so many levels.
Have to have a little bit of fun.
Oh,
it's a gorgeous, mostly sunny day in the West Coast. It's a balmy 52 degrees. Trump got indicted. What more could you ask for?
All right, let me see if I can finish this statement. This is not an indictment of a crime. I can't get past the first. I'm sorry, I'm a writer first. I can't get past the first sentence. All right. Let's
maybe 4.
Let's try. Okay. Yeah, that might help. You guys presumably have money. Hire an editor. This is not an indictment of a crime. There was no crime. Instead, this news is the indictment of a failed nation. He will be reelected in the greatest landslide in American history, and together we will all make America great again and make his shit. Okay, I'm going to try to say this.
So I just need to slap you really hard and then shake you and say, "Get it together, man."
Yeah, it's not going to work. I'm going to try to say this. Okay. Make is spelled M:\AKE.
All right then.
That's how it's spelled make. That's just saying. Is that on the official copy, or is that just on the tweet of the official copy? Because it would be great if that was on the original, the full copy. Make spelled M:\AKE. America great again. Yeah, that's not on the original copy. Well, I still like it. It doesn't surprise me. All right. From Donald J. Trump, thugs and radical left monsters have just indicted the 45th president of the United States of America and the leading Republican candidate, by far, for the 2024 nomination for president. And then all this is just in all caps going forward. This is an attack on our country, the likes of which has never been seen before. I think those in Pearl Harbor may disagree, but okay. It is likewise a continuing attack on our once free and fair elections. The U.S. is now a third world nation in serious decline. So sad. I got to tell you, I genuinely, I'm glad we laugh about it, and I'm tempted to just do so many more jokes, but there's so much about this that's serious as well. So I think we're threading the jokes line just perfectly. I think we're treating this with both seriousness and the absolute humor it deserves.
Hey,
oh dear Lord!
Your new co-host has arrived.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He's waiting for orientation.
Yeah. Except you have to say his name 3 times before he's supposed to show up. I did not say it 3 times. Tony, it's good to see you. It's been a long time.
No, but if you add all of us together, I said it once, you said it once, and Titan typed it once. That counts, right?
We have to do something about this. Oh, Kofefe, yeah. All right. So, it's genuinely difficult. It's weird. It's weird to see somebody who engineered the fake electors, who knew for a fact, and we know this. We've seen the January 6th. We covered every single January 6th hearing. We know he knew he lost. We know there was no evidence of any tampering significant enough to even remotely close, come even remotely close to changing the results of the election. And then to have him say this stuff, reality does not matter to him. He is a gaslighter, the likes of which I've never. And I was listening to President Sunday at one point, and somebody on there had suggested they were talking about human rights and what constituted abuse and what constituted criminal behavior against people. And someone suggested gaslighting. Gaslighting is actually, in a number of instances, a tremendous form of psychological abuse, and I'd never even considered that it should actually be illegal. Now, I don't know how you'd make it illegal. That's a tough call, but I think the damage that it does psychologically, and that's kind of the point, really, ultimately, of gaslighting, is really underestimated. I really can't believe Tony's here, and people are cheering for him. Oh. All right. I'll be fine. It's all good, folks. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Oh, Representative Eric. Oh, God.
Oh, apparently they got even worse. They didn't actually put indicted. They put indicated.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Read that again.
Oh, I got to go read that. Yeah. Oh, well, that's what happens. So they indicated.
Our brains actually like to correct mistakes as we're going along, so sometimes we don't catch them.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess he's been indicated, and he will make, spelled M::AKE, America great again. Yeah, gaslighting is basically the hallmark of domestic abuse, and we don't tolerate domestic abuse for a very good reason. And gaslighting is very much one of the principal tools in that kind of abuse and or torture. A statement from U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell. I know the name. I should get it right, but from California.
Yes, Eric Swalwell.
Swalwell. All right, thank you. The indictment of a former president is a somber day for America. Actually, that is true. Joking aside, it's also a time to put faith in our judicial system. Donald Trump deserves every protection provided to him by the Constitution and due process under our rule of law. And as this case progresses, let us neither celebrate nor destroy. As a former president continues to call for violence in his name, let us all, as Democrats and Republicans, condemn his efforts to incite. We are better than that, and justice benefits us all. Let's see, and then, oh God.
I'm telling you, I'm really getting tired of having to agree with Democratic representatives.
I know. I got to tell you, That is another great reason to keep you on this show, is to just it's like, Nick, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a Democrat, right? Yeah, I know, but, oh God, Marjorie Taylor Greene said something that is exactly what you'd expect it to be. I ain't quoting her. I don't give a fuck. It's insanity. She's unhinged. So, what I want to do now is the Lincoln Project. They've made a statement. We're going to cover that, and we're going to cover the live chat and see kind of what's going on.
Anymore, when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene and anything that she says, like on Twitter or officially says or puts out statements, what you need to do from now on is you go, and Marjorie Taylor Greene in a press release, is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're going to move on. That's how you handle Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I think that's a good idea. Well, I care too much about our audience and about human dignity in general to repeat those words any more than is absolute minimum, and I don't have to repeat what she said. It's not she didn't say anything terrible. She just said the usual bullshit that she always says. And I think you made a good point. We need to talk about this on a downtime or something. You and I need to talk. But I like your argument about Marjorie Taylor Greene as more of a cynic and smarter than she actually looks. I wouldn't have thought it, but I think you're right. I think you've got it, and that makes me despise her more, because an idiot you can excuse. Someone who's deliberately doing this, holy shit. The Lincoln Project releases the following statement on Donald Trump's indictment. Before that, we have breaking news. Every officer from the New York Police Department has been ordered to come into work tomorrow, all of them in uniform. They are bringing in absolutely everybody and preparing for violence, so they're all going to be deployed. We'll follow that. Also, I'm surprised they haven't deployed them yet. Let's see, it's a Thursday night. No, we'll get into that in a minute. So from the Lincoln Project, quote, Donald Trump is no victim. His indictment is the result of his criminal behavior. Trump gave money to a porn star to stay quiet after their affair to protect his campaign and covered it up. The grand jury found sufficient evidence to indictment. This indictment sends the first of many clear messages to the nation that the rule of law still has meaning. Trump's lapdogs in Congress and in the media are busy once again proving character no longer matters to the GOP as they rush forward to supplicate themselves to the GOP's, quote, dear leader. The weak-minded Kevin McCarthy wannabe VP Ellis Stenfenk and power-mad Ron DeSantis are more than happy to throw the rule of law under the bus. They will obstruct justice and blatantly lie for Trump to cover up his criminality so they can remain in good standing with the ultra-MAGA extremists who control the GOP and their political futures. For all their screeching about weaponizing government, they're doing just that by launching phony investigations in a pathetic attempt to obstruct this and other cases against Trump. Where are the laughably named problem solvers and self-described moderates? They live in fear and hide behind their press staff, too afraid of primary challenges to do the right thing and to say no one is above the law. They know even after this indictment, Trump is still the GOP frontrunner, and their fear keeps them compliant. The GOP once held up the rule of law as a pillar of conservative values, but that was before it ceased being a political party and transformed into Donald Trump's personality cult. The biggest crime spree in this country isn't in American cities, it's inside Trump's GOP. Any thoughts?
You're making me agree with too many people today. I need to stop.
This is the Lincoln Project.
I do have to kind of point out it's not just Trump's GOP. It's pretty much, I think, personally, and the federal government writ large. But
we've talked about this before. You are conservative, and you used to identify, I think, as at least with the Republican Party, if not officially Republican. We've talked about this before, but I'd like to talk again. What are your views on what's happened with the Republicans sort of in the last, it's now been well more than 4 years, but what are your thoughts about the changes and what we see going forward.
I used to be a lot bigger supporter of the Republicans, or the Republican Party, I should say. I never actually, I've always said I was independent, but I would have voted for pretty much all Republicans, except in one case. There was one Democrat that I really, really liked and voted for. But the more shit that they go on, it's like every time they get in power, they say this, they say this, they say this, and then they don't do anything different. I've gotten to the point where it's like, with the exception of Trump, it's like, okay, it doesn't seem to me to matter whether they have a D or an R behind their name. They're doing the same things. Republican Party is supposed to be, conservative and conserve things, and they wanted to conserve the role of the federal government, which is something that I actually agree with. I think that the federal government should be constrained to the role the Constitution specifically left out or laid out for it, that it gave it very specific powers and nothing else. And that if you want the federal government to do other things, there are some instances where I have clearly said, I think this is in the purview of the federal government. This should be a federal thing, like the COVID response, for example. We should pass a constitutional amendment granting the federal government the authority to do these things, because this is in the purview of what the federal government was intended to do. And yet they blow out spending every single time. It's like, I swear to God, they make things even worse, because they do tax cuts and then increase spending. They make the problem even worse. It's like Democrats might raise your taxes and then spend a lot, but at least they're raising the taxes, so you're paying for what the government's doing. I think one of the most dangerous things is large government debt. And that's sad, because government or debt can be used really effectively for some things, and yet it's being horribly abused by the federal government. And the Republicans, who are supposed to be, the fiscally responsible party, at least they claim they are anything but. It's like, I have been completely disillusioned of the Republican Party. I don't support them at all. They constantly put bad people up for election and then cry about, how they didn't win. And it's like, okay, well, maybe actually put somebody up there who's a decent human being, and actually makes good arguments for what you're supposed to stand for. And you're not doing any of that stuff. So it's like, I don't support the Republican Party. I don't believe the Republican Party is conservative in any way, except possibly trying to take us back to, to discrimination, and not just racial discrimination. I'm socially very liberal, and I think that some of the attacks against marginalized and minority groups in the country that the Republican Party is engaged in is despicable. It's like, I can't support the Republican Party at all. And anymore, it's like, I look at the individual and go, okay, I'm going to completely ignore whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, and I want to look at what their actual arguments are, what their platform is, what they're running on, what do they say they're going to do. Especially when I'm voting for my local representatives here in the state of Washington. And then I'll vote for who I want. And then if they don't uphold what they said they were going to do, I'm not voting for them again. Period. End of discussion. I'm going to vote for somebody else. Hell, I'll vote for a jar of peanut butter before I vote for somebody who says they're going to do all of these things and then doesn't even make the attempt. They're saying it they're pandering just to get votes, and then they go in and they decide to enrich themselves. And it pisses me off. And I do believe that will be the death of our republic.
Well put. And I'm sorry. I mean,
Enough?
at a minimum, yeah, no, yeah. Well, now, that was well played. Well played, sir. Very well played. Yes, thank you. There's also been that we do have a few other things. That was a little bit of an inside joke. Speaking of inside jokes, now that we have 𝐒𝐨𝐿 himself in our live chat, that's always a pleasant feeling. I just figured we'd say this.
And like that, he's gone.
Yeah. That's 𝐒𝐿𝐴 himself. Of course, I think I didn't actually show the video. Oh well. Hopefully you heard the audio. That seemed a little quiet, but that's all right. may do that one again later. We'll fix the
I did not
audio.
get to hear it, but
You did not hear it? All right. Well, that was from, dear Lord, what was it? Usual Suspects, Kevin Spacey, and like that. He's gone. It's, yep. All right. So there's a couple of other statements, and here's what I'm going to say about these statements.
about, oh, is this the time we get to say all of the horrible, nasty things?
Muted doesn't mean I can't hear. Thank you, Titan.
Oh.
yeah. So we got to we're gonna reconnect here. So apologies for all that.
Wonder what this cable does.
You know what? That never happened. You have no proof that happened, and fortunately, nobody in our live chat knows what we're talking about, and it better stay that way.
They don't need to know. You know.
Yes, I do. All right. Yeah, we're good. We're back. We're fixed. All right. So, yep. Thank you. All right. So we fixed that. Apologies for that issue. It has been resolved, at least temporarily. We're good. All right. So we were talking about any number of things, but okay, I'm not even going to bother with that. So we'll deal with all that later. Where were we when all that happened? Okay, so I know part of it was about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and somebody suggested that she was getting her marching orders from her handler in Russia, and I think that's probably accurate. And I just realized I shouldn't joke about that. And the reason I shouldn't joke about that is I actually don't think she's getting her marching orders from Russia. But since we've had people who have been elected president who credibly actually have been, and I'm not saying that flippantly, I'm aware that sounds to a lot of people like a conspiracy theory. When you understand how Russian intelligence works, and I'm not saying he was like a open agent for Russia, but that's not how Russian manipulation works. And was he compromised? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt in that. And we're going to talk about that more in the future. That's not the topic of today's show. But because of that, I don't want to joke about it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's just an idiot. And that may not even be true, as you were saying earlier. So apologies, and I'm going to start to try to get back into the flow of things. You've all been very patient. Thank you. Yes, I did press the button that said "Don't press this." That was what it said last week. Is that still the case? Turns out,
no, it's not the case anymore.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I will press it again. If you say that.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's all my fault. I told you it was okay to press the button. You went ahead and pressed the button.
You told me it was okay to pull that cable, too.
I didn't think you'd be that gullible. I didn't say anything about the cable. It was in your way. And you decided, I don't recognize this cable.
Yeah.
All right. Be anything important. So, Mr. DeSantis has apparently put out a statement on.
I would like you to read that, but I do want to, from Sinister Porpoise. Oh no, this isn't Nick's idea of tech support abilities. You've all wondered why so Sinister Porpoise's main interest is tech support. Very good at it. Or computers, I should say. You've all wondered why someone whose main interest in computers is finding this show entertaining, and watching Nick's tech abilities is fantastic television. Yeah, I wish she was the first one to say that, but I've seen people say, I've got no interest in the news. The news bores me, but I love watching Nick to try to keep the show running. Oh, dear Lord. Thank you, Sinister Porpoise. I really appreciate your support. All right. DeSantis has spoken out, you said?
Yeah, he put out a statement on the august platform that is called Twitter. Why do I do Twitter to myself?
You're a masochist is about the only reason I can...
He says... Yep. Quote, "The weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda turns the rule of law on its head. It is un-American. The Soros-backed Manhattan district attorney has consistently bent the law to downgrade felonies and to excuse criminal misconduct. Yet now, he is stretching the law to target a political opponent. Florida will not assist in an extradition request given the questionable circumstances at issue with this Soros-backed Manhattan prosecutor and his political agenda." Unquote.
Holy shit.
Wow. That statement was so bad, the ambulance is showing up to make sure I'm okay after having read it.
Well, and
I wonder who got hurt. Why is the ambulance here?
I was talking to Abu yesterday. I was talking to Abu yesterday, and he was just like, I'd really appreciate it. I think it's a good idea if you can dial the swearing back a bit. And he's probably right. But, and then I got to tell you, there are shows, Florida will not extradite. Well, he wants to play that game. He can. Wow. And for somebody who, by the way, we have footage of him outright saying, I don't know about paying hookers with money. So he basically admitted it happened, which there's no way of him to know unless he was the guy holding the camera. Bad joke. Okay. Very bad joke. But he admitted as much as, and obviously there's no way for him to actually know, but it was just expedient for him at the time. But now he's, oh dear Lord. The Republican Party is so foobar, it is beyond. And I just it's the most cynical. When will this orange Jeebus be arrested? That's a good question. So the Manhattan DA has released a statement and saying that, okay, so he has not actually been brought in yet. He has not been brought in. He's been indicted, but he hasn't been brought in. He does need to, and he will need to be arrested. And we had a question about that. I think Titan had a question about that, and it looks like he's going to be arrested, and that's just par with the indictment. So I think Titan had that one right. So, quote, this evening we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office I just realized why DeSantis did it. I'm such an idiot. I can't believe it took me this long to figure that out. This evening, we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office for arraignment on the Supreme Court indictment, which remains under seal. Guidance will be provided when the arraignment date is selected. So, we don't know yet. It'll be either Monday or Tuesday. We'll get a mugshot then. It becomes public basically immediately. Whether they make it available immediately, I don't know. They probably will because of the interest in it, and mugshots are available within hours usually. So Monday or Tuesday, he's going to surrender, and he'll go in. I can't believe it took me this long to. Do you mind reading DeSantis's again if you've still got it? I know you're like on a phone, so there's like 30 tabs open. But if you've got DeSantis's statement, could you read that one more time?
I do. Yeah, I can. Quote, the weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda turns the rule of law on its head. It is un-American. The Soros-backed Manhattan district attorney has consistently bent the law to downgrade felonies and to excuse criminal misconduct. Yet now he is stretching the law to target a political opponent. Florida will not assist in the extradition request given the questionable circumstances at issue with this Soros-backed Manhattan prosecutor and his political agenda. Unquote.
So, yeah, that's cute. That's fucking cute. He's saying that they're not going to extradite. Now, this is an interesting fact that most people don't realize, which is because each state, and this is something, as Andrew, you taught me a lot about, because I had thought we were supposed to be more one country when we were founded, and you had said no, we were actually more supposed to be a number of states, much more like the EU, and probably even more diverse than that. And you're 100% correct. I did not see it that way. I did not understand it that way, and it didn't take a heck of a lot of research to realize you were right. And everybody here watching knows that you were right, because I genuinely would not admit that unless somebody had like pokers under my toenails, or you were right, and I just had to admit it because, you know, I actually have a conscience. So you were absolutely right about that, and I think that's a very important thing to understand. I'm disappointed as the student of history, it took me this long to understand it. But what that means is, actually, if you're accused in one state and you're living in another one, that state doesn't have to turn you over, technically. There needs to be an extradition process. That process is waived 99.9% of the time because we're all in the United States. But it didn't used to be, and it doesn't have to be waived. And then you have to go before a judge, and then you have to figure out if they're willing to extradite you. 9 times out of 10, there's no grounds for not extraditing you. So you sit there and say, why do you need to extradite if they're in the United States? Because each state is essentially sovereign in this regard, presumably. That was at least the original intent. So, the fact that he's saying that they might not extradite is so egregious, it's insane. Except they don't have to extradite. What he says is absolutely irrelevant, because first of all, he actually probably has no say over the matter. It's a judge. And second of all, he's going to surrender. He has to surrender. The reason he has to surrender is because New York is where Trump Tower is. If he doesn't surrender, warrants go out for his arrest, all sorts of shit happens, and they start seizing all his property. And it's not just this case. The Manhattan DA is going to indict him unless he plans on never walking in New York again, never setting foot in New York again. He has to surrender, and he can't not walk in New York again.
Or stepping outside of Florida. Or stepping outside of Florida, because Florida will say, "Oh, well, we're not going to extradite," but that means he can never leave the state because every other state will extradite.
Yes,
and I mean this is it's political pandering is what it is from DeSantis. He knows that this is inconsequential, that he's not going to have any, effect on this whatsoever. He knows that Trump's going to go to New York at some point. He knows that he's going to have to turn himself in. So that is nothing but pure propaganda.
Yep. And so we've got, thank you, Titan, Andrew C. Lawfer Esquire. It's a lawyer who's saying, okay, and I'm a little ticked, like I said. I mean, it's just like it took me a few seconds before I realized why he said it. It makes perfect sense. He can't, there's nothing, it's bullshit. It's the worst. Wow. Anyone freaking out about DeSantis' gaslighting regarding the extradition of Trump? He has no choice to meet the extradition clause of the U.S. Constitution. That clause is Article 4, Section 2, Clause 2. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall on demand of the executive authority of that state from which he fled be delivered upon the removal, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. So if you get at the executive authority of the state. So yeah, he'd have to anyway. Well, no, I guess he doesn't have to, because I don't think the Constitution means, if you're south of the Mason-Dixon line, the Constitution really seems to have taken on a very different, so who knows? I don't think it matters. I'm glad to know this, so thank you for passing that on, Titan. So that's where the extradition clause comes from, and that's worth knowing, so I appreciate that. But the reality is it's not going to get that far, because if Trump doesn't surrender, everything they can they can seize everything, and everything he may like to, he may like Mar-a-Lago, but all his money is in New York. He has to surrender, and anybody who's near him knows it, and this includes DeSantis. So DeSantis can get points on both sides, because he can sit there and say, I mean, what's he going to fucking do? Build a moat around Mar-a-Lago? That would be kind of cool.
I don't think legally, that Florida could stop state officials from New York coming to Mar-a-Lago and arresting him.
Yeah, I don't think he. So unless he plans on legally fortifying Florida, I mean, if he's talking insurrection, that's what. And I know we've been joking a lot tonight, so I'm sitting there going, well, unless he's talking insurrection and wants Florida to become its own country. The reality is that's essentially what he's threatening, because he doesn't have the right to withhold extradition. Florida is a state.
He doesn't have the legal authority.
Yeah, he doesn't have it. And either he doesn't know that, which would be insane because he's governor, or he's bullshitting, which I think it's DeSantis, so 99.9% that, or he means he is not going to recognize the Constitution of the United States and the authority of the federal government. He has to be saying one of those three things. I can't believe I think he's pandering too, but I can't. I mean, I know politics in the U.S. is cynical. I know that you say a lot to get to your audience, but holy shit, for a governor to come out and say this. I mean, Rick Perry had thinly veiled threats of leaving the union anyway, so fuck it. I guess that's what loving America means. They are all Americans first. They love this country, unlike their liberal counterparts, and they love it so much they're going to leave when a jury of his peers decides to indict him legally. That's what loving this country means, I guess. Oh, dear Lord. All right. Like I said, and I think we're gonna keep this up for a little bit. We're gonna do another rundown and talk about everything. Presumably, I'm gonna sing again. My condolences ahead of time to everybody in the live chat.
Did legal get back with you and let you know what the liability for somebody having permanent hearing loss due to your singing? They said that was good to go?
They didn't, but my understanding was liability would only be for people working at In Time. So mute the internal audio and everything will be fine. Thank God, that's all you really cared about anyway. Oh yeah, no, for the live chat, there's nothing they can do. Daedalus Media, $2. Florida man commits treason. Yeah, there's been a couple of them in Florida. Florida's liking treason. Well, and this also, it's just like, what was it? That other governor of theirs during the what's her name? We can suspend voting in case of hurricane. That's not actually what she said. During the Gore v. Bush thing, and like major conflict of interest, didn't remove in time show. Can we submit song requests? No. I keep wanting to say Kamala Harris. It wasn't Kamala Harris, obviously. Who was the governor of Florida during Bush v. Gore? I don't know. Someone on the live chat will drop it, I'm sure. Is Andring? I can read the live chat. You're aware I can see the live chat.
Damn it.
Oh. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're supposed to cuss less.
We are supposed to. I'm gonna have to apologize.
Damn it.
I am gonna have to apologize for this one, but it's a little hard, and I gotta tell you. First of all, I do have to thank Pat because he reached me about 3 seconds ahead of Titan on this one, and Titan had, just FYI, Titan had DM'd me in the Discord 20 minutes before the calls started coming in, but I was just family, and hadn't checked. So, the other thing is, he may have done that, but he may or may not remember we had an ongoing bet as to whether or not Trump would ever be indicted for anything. And guess who just won that bet today? Just saying, Pat. That one we can snip and send to him, because I don't think he's in the live chat anymore. The governor was Jeb Bush. So it was the Secretary of State. Thank you. You're right. It was, Jeb Bush. That's absolutely correct. Jeb Bush was the governor. Who was the Secretary of State? Because she was the one who could keep. She was trying to stop the recount, and she decided to use. There was a clause that's saying, like, in the example of extreme weather, you could stop it. And they're like, well, do you really have the authority to stop the recount? And she goes, yes, in cases of extreme weather. It's like, it's a sunny day out. She's like, I'm stopping the recount. It's like, okay. Okay. I think the singing joke has just gone on a little too far. I mean, there could be mass man from La Mancha. Are you kidding me? Well, at least nobody's recommended Abdullah Bulbul Amir. That's all I have to say. Okay. So, yeah, one of the reasons I'm not going to read some of these statements is some of them genuinely are gaslighting. So if you want to see some of these statements, come to the Discord. We're getting most of them on there. I'm not a fan of these statements being on the Discord, some of them, but it's newsworthy that these people are saying these things. And I think it's important that you know. Some of them are. So we've got one from a sort of a. It wasn't QAnon. What was it? We've got a couple from some very bad sources and some very bad people making some very serious threats. Many of these threats I don't take too seriously, and the reason is because they're not big enough to do it. Some of them you do need to worry about. So we'd have to do another show to get into that, and frankly, we're just going to be following what happens tonight and what happens tomorrow anyway. So we're going to be on standby for that period of time. I'm not going to, some of this stuff is just like, it's lunacy, and there's no point in repeating it. And we try to be impartial. We want to get both sides. There's some things there aren't two sides to. And I'm really done pretending there's a second side to this. So I'm going to check one other thing, and then we're going to, I think, prepare for one more quick rundown on everything, and we'll see where we stand. All right, so there we go. Let me just No, that could be. Okay, that's correct. All right. And we're still getting information coming in. I don't. Did someone else suggest that? Okay, so Trump. I mean, he's going to surrender. He has to surrender because. Oh dear Lord. Okay, so we still don't know. We don't know what's in the indictment. We just know he's been indicted. We're going to learn more on Monday or Tuesday. It's going to be unsealed. He's going to be arrested. He will be fingerprinted. He will have a mug shot, and then he will face a judge. Now, in general, they do this for everybody, which is when you're indicted by a grand jury, they want you out of there as soon as possible. They're not actually trying to make it a terrible experience. You're about to have a terrible experience. They don't need to elongate it. So usually they have a judge there when they're indicting someone, anybody especially of note. They already have a judge waiting. They know what's going to happen, and basically the idea is to get you in and out and processed as quickly as possible. They also don't want to hold on to him any longer than possible, because if a mob forms outside and they start trying to break in, if he gets out as quickly as possible, they're no longer nearly the same position. So they want him in and out quickly. They're going to process him. They're going to take him to a judge. The judge is going to release him on his own recognizance, and he is gone. One of the reasons he's going to be released ROR is, again, this is actually a reasonably small potatoes crime. Having said that, there could be things in the indictment that we don't know about, and I am seeing now that apparently it's 34 counts relating to falsifying business records. This comes from CNN, 34 counts of falsifying business records. Again, we said this at the top of the hour, and we'll do it again during the rundown. You'd think it's campaign finance. It should be campaign finance, which is actually much more serious, but the Manhattan District Attorney cannot prosecute that crime, and the federal government said 2 years ago, more than that they will not prosecute that crime. I think it was 2 years ago. So it's done. They're not going to get them on what they really should have. So, for fuck's sake. All right, fine. Titan has apparently. So this is breaking. All right, fine. Let's just let's do this. I think this does qualify as breaking news. It looks like they did fingerprint him already. Let me just see. I want to make sure that we get that. Yeah, we have a yeah, all right, we do. Okay, he's been fingerprinted. We don't have his mug shot. Actually, we may. I need to look and see if we've got that, but he has been fingerprinted. Let's put up the fingerprint here, and there we go. There you go. He's been fingerprinted. Titan found his fingerprints. Thank you, Titan. Oh, come on. That's funny. Okay. I think Ksandrig's busy. Ksandrig's on his phone furiously trying to find stuff. It's like, oh, dear Lord. I would like to find the other image that I was going to use for his mugshot, but we'll pass on that. I think it's time to start getting serious and figuring out what we're going to. So he is, so he has been officially criminally charged. He's the first former U.S. president ever to be criminally charged. I think it's going to be an interesting weekend, folks. It's possibly nothing's going to happen. I think that's obviously the hope. We're going to see. We've heard some fiery rhetoric so far. Most of the fiery rhetoric is on the internet from anonymous people on anonymous whatever, threatening to do really stupid and bad things. New York is on full alert, I have no doubt, and everybody's going to be keeping an eye on it. There's a number of other stories in the news. We are going to cover those as well as they come up. And, obviously this is dominating, but it's not the only thing going on. We're still following what's happening with the latest shooting. There's a lot to unpack there. And this is a situation that's going to be evolving. So what I want to do is, in a minute, I'm going to pass it off to Ksandrig, giving him a heads up so he can wrap up what he's doing and then come on in. But I want to get sort of his final thoughts on this. We're going to do another rundown. We're going to just talk about what we know, how we know it, and where we are today, and what we're expecting. Then I'm going to do any final questions. Actually, I'm going to go through and look for $2. Request girl on fire. Really? Scotland the Brave.
There was one before me too.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm scrolling up. It's moving fast. Okay, so all right. Well, did you have any final thoughts as we're wrapping up? And yeah, I'm going to sing one more time, but
Well, unlike apparently Ron DeSantis, who I share at least a first name with, we should ignore his views on the rule of law, because he apparently doesn't know what the rule of law is. And we should actually apply the rule of law to everyone, including members of the federal government. So hopefully this will set a good precedent of, if you break the law, we're going to charge you. We don't care what office you held. And I think that we need to do that. It would be really good and go a long way towards restoring faith in our systems. And I don't really want the loss of at least the perception of the rule of law, because that leads to really bad places. And even though I may be a supporter of being able to own firearms, I really don't want to have to use them to defend myself. I would really rather stick to shooting the clay pigeons and paper targets, because that is way funner.
yeah, I agree. Citra, thank you for contributing to Xandering Person's Gender Studies degree. My pleasure. Can we submit song requests? Again, no. The impossible, really, we are having, what we have here is a failure to communicate. The words no means no. Okay, so we have Daedalus, Florida Man.
So what you're saying is,
no, that
as long as
God, speaking of law references, oh dear Lord. Okay, we're just doing all sorts of callbacks tonight, aren't we? Donald Trump is indicted, and In Time does callbacks from debates that Xandering thinks he might have won in his wildest dreams to yeah, okay. Let's see. Was there one other? Yeah, no, I didn't see any super chats after Daedalus Media. There were no super chats after that. $2, Daedalus Media, Florida Man commits treason. I don't see anything there. I really don't. Good.
Tisk.
Tisk. Has he already surrendered? No, he has not. Yeah, the thumbnail was a joke. Sorry. It's orange. Yeah. Yeah, we made that 2 weeks ago. We're just holding on to his thumbprint. We're like, okay. A Xandering Person requests Girl on Fire. No. Sinister Porpoise, $2. Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Oh, dear Lord. I probably have to do at least one of them. Otherwise, I'm like... And nobody did Abdul Bulbul Amir, which is the only song I ever memorized in my life. I have no idea why. All right.
We should just close out the show with all of us together, the live chat and everyone. We'll just all get together and we'll sing Bohemian Rhapsody, because that song brings nations together.
Yes, it does. Okay, fine. So here we go. Oh God! Everyone who values their hearing or their sanity should close just turn off.
Just shut it off. Shut it down.
Shut it down. Shut it all down. All right.
You think people are concerned about your singing? Oh my God, they don't want to hear me bellow like a dead cow.
Yeah, and I've heard, so yeah. All right. Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is, I can't even, really, no, I'm not even going to go there. I don't have even remotely close to the range. I'll read it. The truth is, I never left you all through my wild days, my mad existence. I kept my promise. Don't keep your distance. There you go. Done. All right. No more super chats on singing. That's it. We're done. All right.
Yeah, come on. You got to do Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy.
Yeah, no. All right. So where
that's
we?
That's kind of a speaking-ish song.
Yeah. All right. So, where are we now? Let's do one more rundown, and then I think we're done for the night. So, yeah, it's always funny because there's a lag between here and the live chat. I was like, I wonder when the singing part hits the actual. Oh, it's hit. I can tell.
There it is.
Do the opera scene from The Fifth Element. That was actually good music. All right. So where are we?
And bizarre to watch too, because of the range. I mean, they did it specifically because no human being has that kind of range. But to watch, that was a really out of nowhere kind of hit. Very well done sci-fi comedy.
That was. I like that one. All right, let's do a rundown, and then I think we'll be just about done after that. We'll do some wrap up stuff. But today is a historic day. For the first time ever, a former U.S. president has been indicted on criminal charges. We believe at this point, I think it's 53 counts pertaining to. Let's see. It was 34 counts of falsifying business records. So, how and why did this happen? This happened in relation to the Stormy Daniels business. It's the smallest of all the things he's been accused of. Falsifying business records is a crime, obviously, but it's not to this extent. It's nowhere near what he's been accused of. So why is this the first one? A couple of reasons. It's the one that started the longest ago. It's been in the air for a while, and they've been working on it for a long while. So it's in many ways the easiest to do. It's also one of the smaller ones. Imagine if right now we were holding this show today, and I said he had been indicted for selling or for holding nuclear secrets and or maybe trying to leverage them into a pardon or whatever else he's been doing with it. That would be a much bigger deal. As big as this is, that would be a much bigger deal. And I think by trying to incrementally work their way up into larger cases, they're hoping that there's going to be less violence as a result and less of a sort of shock of the country. So it's great. It's fortuitous, and there's been probably some, not coordination, but, they're aware of the other cases, and they made sure that they worked as hard as quickly as possible to get this one out the door. Now that it's out the door, you've solved the famous first man problem. And you can expect an indictment a month on average for the next 5 to 8 months. I don't think there's any question about that, and they're going to get progressively more serious. We're going to see at some point, maybe this year or next, we're going to see tax evasion and significant tax evasion. I think there was one estimate of he probably owes 36 billion in back taxes. Think about that for a second. We're going to probably see money laundering. He's already got a grand jury out for RICO indictments against him. He's got one out for, obviously, the mishandling of classified information, and by a law that he himself signed. If he's convicted of that, in fact, as I recall, it may have even said once he's indicted for that, he can't run for president. I think it was if you're convicted, you can't hold any public office ever again. He signed that one. So I think this is the very beginning of a long series of indictments that we're going to see. It's not the biggest. We've been asked a lot, gee, why aren't they getting him on, what is it, the campaign finance? And the reason is that is the purview of the federal government, and the federal government has decided not to. They did so without comment. We don't know why. Do I find it suspicious? Yes. Have I seen stronger cases against someone that were turned down for reasons that fathom understanding? Rarely, but yes. It's not the most egregious one, but it's up there. They had him. They had him on that. They decided not to prosecute it, probably a combination of fear and X, Y, and Z, and or he knew people, and however it landed, that's how it landed. They can't go after him that for now. They can, but bad idea too. So that's done. They got him on this. So he is now indicted. The world is actually a little bit of a different place, just because it's historic, And this is obviously news that's breaking across the world. Everyone's going to say, wow, a former U.S. president. And it is just the beginning. Please, if you like our opinions and like how we cover these things, and usually we're more professional, some of this is blowing off steam. And a personal story that I think everybody knows. I remember very well the night that he won. And I remember the look of shock and disappointment on his face and on the face of Melania. It was very real. And you can find photos of it. He didn't think he was going to win. He didn't want to. And she certainly didn't want him to. And it wasn't that I was, I'd been hoping for the first female president. It wasn't. And Hillary, by the way, I really don't like her at all. And I was in a campaign directly opposed to hers for a while. So I have a lot more reason to dislike her than most. She was one of the most qualified people running for president in human history, running for any office. She had been vetted by everybody, and they couldn't find really much of anything. That was insane. It wasn't any of those things. It wasn't losing the qualified candidate. It wasn't losing the first female president. It was that he was so obviously, and I've said he isn't racist before, but it's the best word for what he was. He was racist. He was derogatory towards everybody. On my personal website, we had a poll. What are we going to call him? I didn't want to call him president. I didn't think he had earned the title or deserved it. But he needed an honorific. He held the office, so it was finally decided pussy grabber in chief. That's actually not funny. It's not funny that you can say that about him. It wasn't just locker room talk. Anybody who's met him knows it's not just locker room talk. And anybody who's heard him talk for 5 minutes. So I cried. I don't cry very often. I cried when he won because I was like, I have to tell my family that this is their country now. It never crossed my mind he would win. And the funny thing was, I disliked Hillary so much, it never crossed my mind she'd win either, to be fair. I couldn't imagine really Hillary as president. But in my view, it was like, there's no way this lunatic can win. I was asked to help in that campaign, too. I didn't want to. Hillary's campaign. And again, I knew women were going to be disappointed because of the loss of that candidate, but I knew anybody who knew anything knew that that wasn't even close to the worst tragedy of it. And I remember telling my wife, and I don't think there are a lot of people who understood what his victory meant at the time. And there were people who said, well, it's just because you're a liberal. There have been far more conservative presidents that I've been okay calling president. There really have been, and that I had more respect for. He wasn't a conservative. He wasn't even a Republican, in name only. Everybody knows why he joined. He certainly wasn't, he wasn't a Republican, a lifelong Republican. He's an opportunist. He's an opportunist. He is, Jesus, I can't believe I can't think of the term now, but basically a scammer. And he's been doing it so long, he can't even tell the difference between make-believe and reality anymore. And we were telling the rest of the world, it doesn't matter that he says these horrible things about our neighbors to the south or about it. None of that shit matters. This is America, and anybody can become president, even racist, pussy-grabbing fucking, yeah. That was not my proudest moment for this country. And this does not make up for it. But we're saying we have a conscience and morals and we're going to do something, finally. Isn't going to fix it, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm breathing again for the first time since that night. Aaron Colson, $20. Appreciate the levity on a pretty somber day. Also, if you or a loved one has been fucking A. All right, that's it. Stream's over, folks. We're done. Thank you so much for coming. I was gonna say, hey, gee, could you guys go to overtime and help us out there? Join the no, don't bother. You don't have to like or subscribe. We're done. It's over. Dear Lord, join the in time Discord server where class action suit will be. Oh, Titan, is there a way to delete the super chats? Do you know? If you could help me out with that, I'm just because I'm seriously injured by the no class action lawsuits on the Discord. Xandring, I know that it's been tough for you too. In some ways harder. Because this man was of your party, and you have you as a person have my deepest respect. I've always respected your ability to listen to other ideas and to effectively communicate your own, and that's been a delight to have on this show. And I do recognize that this guy was a representative, presumably, of a party that you cared about very much and respected, and I have to imagine the pain it would cause me if somebody on the far left was this bad. So I appreciate you being here with us and for always giving us your honest opinion. That's been very helpful.
Yeah, it was incredibly disappointing because when he first got elected, I was like, well, didn't vote for him, not my first choice. We'll see what he does. Maybe we need something to shake things up, and we didn't need that kind of shakeup. And the longer it went on, the more of a horror show it became. So it's like, yeah, this is terrible. I mean, it's like we need an effective conservative party. We need an effective liberal party. And it seemed like he completely destroyed the conservative party, or the ostensibly conservative party. What small fragment of conservatism remained was destroyed by Trump. So.
All right. All joking aside, Aaron, thank you very much for your super chat. We do sincerely appreciate it. If you could refrain from the class action lawsuit, I'd appreciate that probably even more. But thank you for your support. We really do appreciate it. Thank you all. We're going to, as I said, we're going to be on standby for the next 48 hours, I think, at a minimum. My hope is we don't have any reason to. But and I think it's a 50-50. I think it was fun, and I remember you and I were talking about does the January 6th committee need to be going after everybody so rapidly, so hard, all of the people involved. And I think it was you who pointed out, yeah, but if they do that now, you reduce the chances of when the next big thing happens. And I think you're right, and I think that's what they had that in mind. When he gets indicted, people are going to think about having January 6th all over again, but now they've got pause. And there's been interviews since then from people on the far right saying, yeah, I'm upset, but am I upset enough I want to go to jail for 3 years? So it's just like, okay. Speaking of, and I forgot, and I'll mention this, and on Tuesday we will have a former member of the far right, and he'll be on telling us what that was like and why he left and where he is now. So I think that's going to be a good show. We'll have more about that on the Discord as it unfolds, but I think it's about time everyone go out, get some dinner, and take a breather because it's been an interesting evening. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Xandring, and look forward to seeing you guys. About tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, we'll have on Operator Starsky, and we're going to talk about some other interesting stuff then too. So I hope you'll join us. Xandring, have a good night.
Good night.
And we're back. Okay, this came in at the last second. I don't usually interrupt the credits. Don't like to do it, but we're going to do our Marvel thing, and you're going to get a credits interruption. We have one more statement, and it was important enough that I thought I thought it needs to be read. I think this is put the situation we find ourselves in the best of any of them. And we've had some good statements. Then we had Marjorie Taylor Greene, but this is a good statement. Congrats to Donald J. Trump for finally winning a majority of votes. From The Daily Show, came out just 10 minutes ago. Thank you for that. And we'd like very much to agree. See you all tomorrow.